Being 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Baspas.
Here?
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
Commissioner Twardy.
Okay, Commissioner Gary.
I make a motion that we excuse Commissioners Twardy and Commissioner Miller.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. I would ask those with cell phones, if you would please put them on vibrate or silence them by turning them off. We would appreciate it. Thank you. Item B, proclamation and recognitions. We have a presentation from I-500 Committee Board Member Dave Thomas.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
Thank you very much for having us here today. Things are progressing nicely for us. It's a little too cold, if you ask me, but things are coming together well. I want to, I just want to, we've had a tremendous support with regards to our sponsorship activities again this year. Some of our great sponsors, again, Myers has really stepped up, Quaid Casinos, of course, and Woody's Traction Products. Local support, we couldn't get everything done that we do up there without Norris Contracting and without Burton Excavating, to mention a few, those guys that have nice pieces of big heavy equipment that show up and move stuff around for us, that's for sure. Madigan Pingator Insurance, Waste Management. Reefer Peterbilt, actually, not a local sponsor, but Reefer Peterbilt gave us a Volvo tractor this year to use. Shipped it up from, he's down near Flint Bay City area or something like that, and he sells, he's a Peterbilt distributor, dealership, and he saw us at the Novi trade show 2 years ago, and last year came up and saw the race and said, hey, I'll send up a truck you guys can use. So that's nice. It's been a real help. And then, of course, Savoy Electric and many others. Things, as I said, are progressing very nicely. Thanks, Tony put the button on already, so do a little advertising for us. That's awesome. I know that it would be nice if we got a little bit of a warm-up so that ice would loosen up and then tighten up again, but I'm not sure if that's if it's going to get warm enough. But things are going to kick off on Sunday with the vintage time trials for the Brad Redmond, and then we load teams in on Monday, and time trials start on Tuesday. Kids race Monday night. Jimmy John's. Got a little shout out to Jimmy John's. They sponsored the kids race there for us this year. So
Is there a calendar of events on Facebook?
You go to the website. If you go to our website, i500.com, i-500.com, the full schedule is on there of events. Also, I know that we have been posting it on our Facebook page, and it's been reposted.
Convention and Visitors Bureau, I would think, would carry that.
CVB also has it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
For sure.
Excellent. Well, it's what, the 52nd?
51.
51, well.
Last year was
that's
50.
Right, 50, same as the 350. Okay.
Yep.
51, great. It's, and we know you couldn't do it without the volunteers. You've been there an awful long time.
You know, this year, actually, last year we kind of made it special because it was our 50th race, to past drivers, and we had the champions breakfast and stuff like that. This year we came up, our race dedication actually is to past volunteers. So we were Abby was at our meeting last Thursday, and I came up, we talked about the only person I knew in my head that had been at all 50 races and volunteered at all 50 races, which was Bill Munsell. And then there were a couple other guys in the room, like Ralph Corsier and Denny Aho said they'd been to 49 or been involved and helped at 49. So we are going to dedicate this year's race to the past volunteers. And we're going to have those guys down on the track with us to receive the dedication.
Sure.
And
And there's volunteers out there that have been involved for 50 years too, that are behind the scenes helping, do that,
And
that
that's
aren't part of the.
but that's exactly
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Munsell has been at all 50 races,
yeah.
volunteering in some way
Yeah.
or manner, in the beginning it being on the board, and the last 20 years, keeping you and I in line
Sure.
at the Lions Club.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, that's our little
That's a
thank you
nice
to the
idea.
people that show up.
Excellent. I know the buttons are here and things are starting
They
to
are
click.
out, yes.
Great. Well, the weather warms up for a little bit and then gets cold again, it looks like, but we need cold anyway, so
Perfect.
it's perfect. Yeah.
It's gonna come off well.
Okay, and then, I don't know if Commissioner Baker, you've got the breakfast going, for the drivers and for the
Yeah,
workers?
the YAC students from Sioux High are putting on all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet at Maloney's. It's starting at 6 a.m. We might open a little earlier for some drivers. Any volunteers that work or help out at the I-500, it's half off, so it's only $5, so it's our thank you to them as well. So good cause, it all goes to the kids' service learning trip, and 10% goes back to the Reach Higher Advisory Committee at Sioux High. And then pub crawl, of course, on Thursday night. Huge event for downtown. All the bars are doing lots of fun things, so everybody come out and have some fun.
We'll have the tent open Thursday night as well with live music.
Okay. And certainly the race for the Guinness Book World Record is
Friday.
Friday at 3 o'clock, I believe, and
Yep.
we're going to talk about that a little bit after, but we'll hit it now and then maybe mention again too that it's proposed to start at the track, and then we will be going down Ashman to conclude the race. The parade. It'll start at the track and then conclude coming down Ashman somewhere around 10th Avenue, I believe. So that's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good it's a good start. So
Yes.
make sure we get the word out, because I think we were only about 25 to 35 sleds short last year, and it'd be nice to get the record this year.
I got a vendor who's coming this year from downstate. He does something with some vinyl stickers or something like that, and he's on a 2-week ride on the western end of the UP. He and the 4 guys that he's with are meeting up with another group of 40 that are coming, that weren't here last year.
Great.
That are coming for the parade.
Great.
That was a total of 4. That's the first 45 guys, people, sorry.
Sure.
Ladies.
Yeah.
There may be some female riders in there, 45 people. So that's, at least I know 45 that weren't here last year.
And I understand too that, and we got to make sure the message gets out that all you need is a registration. For the sleds, you do not have to have a trail sticker on that given day, I believe. So
I'm not on the rules committee for that
okay.
one.
Commissioner Baker.
Also, too, there will be taxi and lift and cab pickup and drop-off points downtown between the Frog and Subway on the corner of Ashman and Maple, and then again Ashman and Spruce, and there's a spot up at the track as well that you
To
can go
dropping
to
folks
for
off and on?
pickup. So make
Okay.
sure
That's race day.
race
Back and
day.
forth. Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
race day and pub crawl night. I believe they'll have them out downtown as well. So be safe. No drinking and driving.
Yeah. Anything else, David?
That's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, thank you, and best wishes. We'll see you up there. Okay. Item C, public comment. This time, we public comment on scheduled agenda items. People may reserve time to speak on an agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Some folks are already on the agenda, but if there's someone in the audience that would like to speak on an agenda item that's not already scheduled, you can let us know at this time, and during that topic, you'll get a chance to speak on that item. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager.
Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of January 14th, 2019. Item 2, acceptance of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes of December 13, 2018. Item 3, acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation meeting minutes of December 11th, 2018. Item 4, acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of December 19th, 2018. Item 5, reappointment of Tom Brown, Bill Munsell, and Tom VM to the Airport Authority Board for terms to expire on January 1, 2023. Item 6, acceptance of the resignation of Rosemary Smith from the Economic Development Corporation. Item 7 is to confirm the mayor's appointment of Tim Ellis to the Economic Development Corporation to fill the balance of a term to expire on June 1, 2023. Item 8, authorization of prior year capital project budget carryovers and returns. Item 9, authorization of a service agreement with Mackinac Environmental Technologies. Item 10, approval to submit projects for funding through the Small Urban Program and commit to project match. Item 11 is schedule a public hearing to confirm special assessment roll SW-03-18 for the February 4th, 2019 City Commission meeting. Item 12 is from the Downtown Development Authority, amendment of user fee schedule to sell monthly and quarterly super permits. Item 13 is from the Dial-A-Ride, authorization to deviate from policy on the disposal of surplus equipment. Item 14 is from the International I-500 Project Incorporated, authorization to sell liquor on city-owned property for the I-500 snowmobile race on Thursday, January 31st, and Saturday, February 2nd for the annual I-500 race, subject to the rules of Michigan Liquor Control Commission and any rules established by the city manager. And item 15 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a commissioner that would like a item explained, further explained on the consent agenda at this time? Commissioner Collins.
Yeah, and let's see, number 8, which is the capital project budgets carryover. It shows $735,940,000 would be returned due to the various capital projects that haven't been basically done or started. When you look at the spreadsheets, it basically says 2018. So the question is, does that include all of the fund balances that were in the budget for prior years as well?
City Manager.
If it pleases the commission, I would encourage our finance director, Kristen Collins, to explain this and answer the question.
Did you hear the question, Kristen?
I did, but I don't really understand the question. When you were asking about the $700,000 that's being returned, you said, does it include the fund balances?
Well, is it made up of the fund balances of the previous projects that were funded but never done? So when you look at the spreadsheets say 2018 fiscal year. I'm assuming that $735,000 didn't come from the 2018 budgets that were.
Oh,
not.
it could be 5 years. A project that was funded 5 years previous. It's a residual budget in those projects. And not all of them were not done. Some of them were done under budget. Some of them were possibly a grant-funded project that just got canceled. There was one that was that. So there's a variety of reasons why we're returning, but there are a few that just are no longer relevant or needed or got returned because something else took precedence over it.
But this alleviates basically someone coming back to the commission and saying, hey, we want to do this, and oh, by the way, we have a fund balance from a project that we didn't actually do in our budget, correct?
It is correct. This is why we're bringing it to you, so it's a matter of public record. But there are a lot of other projects that are carried forward into the new year. So we have a variety. We have some that are being returned and then some that are carried forward. So when you look at the carry forwards, the ones that are going forward on the summary sheet, those projects, plus the ones we funded as of July 1st, are all the current projects, plus anything that you've added since then with a commission revised budget. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Collins, would you like to make a motion?
Nation, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosbus?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item E, special orders of business. 1, public hearing, CDBG funding for rental rehabilitation project at 221-223 West Portage Avenue, the Kalia properties.
Okay, thank you. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. On this item, as well as the next two, I would invite DDA Director Justin Knepper to present to the City Commission and community.
Okay. Evening, Justin.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Commission. Commissioners. All right. So first of all, on this topic of rental rehabilitation is something that the Downtown Development Authority has worked on for at least the 7 years that I've been here, and I'm very excited to work with Misty and Bob Clea. It's been excellent work with them as property owners downtown. I think they bought their building, 224 Ashman Street, which in this historic photo you can see 3 buildings in, with that kind of like spire sticking up on top of it. I believe they bought it maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It's where Subaru and Second Childhood is on the first floor. The upper floor has had 12 little kind of motel rooms that were constructed back in the early 1900s, I believe as kind of like Coast Guard housing, and it's been abandoned and vacant for probably 20 years plus at least since the last time anybody worked on it up there. We've worked over the years to get our Downtown Development Authority qualified for his rental rehabilitation projects. And how it works currently, when we first started the process, the Michigan Housing Development Authority offered 75% match funding to redo upper floor apartments, but you had to agree to a 5-year low income restriction in order to get the grants. Since then, the Michigan Housing Development Authority had their program taken over by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and due to a lot of, I would say, lobbying, complaining, yelling, screaming, et cetera, from our downtowns across Michigan, especially smaller downtowns, that were really pushing the folks at the MEDC to say, we want housing that's not restricted for anybody. We want it to be housing that's available for whatever the rent rates can handle, so that we can get more of a mix of incomes in our downtowns. And so they've changed the program completely now, where in order to get grant funding to redo upper floor units, you can qualify for grants that only have a 1-year restriction on 51% of the units. And so it's a pass-through from federal funding, so it is required that there is some affordable attachment to the program. So there's 6 apartments proposed for this project, and 4 of them will be restricted for 1 year at an affordable level. After that 1 year, Misty and Bob can change the rent rates on those 4 units to whatever the market can handle. I had a couple pictures. So this goes back probably for the, I guess, 1910s, and you can see the building had pretty fancy kind of cornice work. You can see on, I hope you can see the mouse here. Right there, there's a bunch of detail, but the building otherwise is very similar to what it was when it was first built. This is at its worst, I would say, in the 1980s. You can see where Maloney's Alley is on the right. Here's the Carousel Souvenirs and Gifts. This is your building. Oh, I'm guessing the 80s or late 70s. And then the office lounge, and then here's the Kalia building as it was then, vacant. And then you can see the rest of Portage down to the Frog. So this is when it was really rough shape, and there's a lot of stabilization that happened since then. This is after 2 years ago, I worked with Misty and Bob on a small grant that the Downtown Development Authority offered for a $2,500 exterior grant, and that started the process to allow for rental rehabilitation grants to happen. Though the grants are not really available unless the building is in good enough shape where the state feels comfortable investing only on the inside. So they did, I believe, nearly $20,000 worth of work to redo the entire exterior, bring back their original hardwood doors, glass, new awnings, paint, and then a lot of work on the brick up here. And the building is in great shape. And the inside, though, is still in its original form. I took some pictures that Misty sent over. This is the stairwell going up the front, some of the units. It's actually very similar to City Hall in how the style is. If you look up at the woodwork here, very, very similar, the exact same wood, the exact same trim styles. So I think maybe some of the same guys worked on the various buildings. Hallways, windows, there was a crazy collection of scary rabbits that were up there. And here's the floor plan that is proposed. UP Engineers, I think, worked with the Kalias on this project. This is the current plan. You walk up the stairs, and there will be 6 units that are large one bedroom, a couple two bedroom, but I'm really excited about it. If you can envision it, you can come up the stairs from Portage, and one apartment will be here with windows overlooking the locks, a bedroom, a big open living room, open kitchen concept on both the sides, and then on the rear, overlooking Maloney Alley, and then the side units have windows looking out over to the rooftops and over to the locks to the west. So that's the current concept. One of the biggest things to remember, the more we research the budgets that are required to redo these old buildings, it is insane amounts of money to get projects like this done. The estimate, I believe, is around $700,000 plus to put in 6 apartments, and there's almost no way to cash flow in any sort of decent format if without support from the public. And so we want to see our historic buildings come back. We want to see people living downtown, and I'm really excited about the investment that the Kalias are putting into this, and very enthused that this is our first rental rehab grant. Tomorrow we have meetings with the state on 2 more buildings that are trying to apply for the same funding source. So I think that is all that I have on this project, and I would definitely recommend that that we move forward with this grant.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, anything to add?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that presentation, Director Nepper. Just that the 2 recommended motions in front of the City Commission, that the first would be to hold a public hearing on the CDBG funding application opportunity relative to the rental rehabilitation project involving 221 to 223 West Portage Avenue, and secondarily to approve continued participation in the project as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we'll hold a public hearing on the CDBG funded application as explained by the City Manager. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. City Commission. Commissioner Baker.
Make a motion to approve the continued participation in the project as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Certainly like to thank the Kalia family for their commitment to the West Portage area, and then the city of Sault Ste. Marie certainly, but it looks like a great project, and best wishes all around. Good luck. Yeah. Okay, no questions. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Mayor Vasquez.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item F, Communications. 1 is from the Downtown Development Authority, video of DDA Main Street 2018 volunteer efforts.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I would invite Director Nepper to come up, and I believe Ms. Deanna Sanderson along with Justin.
Excellent.
Good evening again. Come on up, Dana. So we wanted to share from our Main Street and Downtown Development Authority efforts a lot of the work that has been going on throughout the course of last year. Dana Sanderson is our Main Street Design Committee Chair, and she led a tremendous amount of efforts to really help us beautify downtown, and a tremendous amount of other things that she's working on. But I'll let her give you a little bit of background on what happened, and then we have a little video.
Okay, thanks. Evening, Dana.
Good evening. Hey, I think I'm shorter than everyone else who's spoken tonight. So I just want to say first and foremost, this is my first city commission meeting, and I always assumed I'd be here to yell at someone. So it's kind of nice that I'm not. I'm actually here with
We appreciate that.
yeah, that's good. And hopefully that never happens. We'll see, but hopefully not. No, I'm kidding. So before we watch the video, I don't want to get too close to the mic. Before we watch the video, I did want to just say a few things about the volunteer efforts downtown, and really, I understand throughout the community there are countless people that step up and volunteer for things like the I-500 and many, many other things. I'm speaking tonight mainly about the downtown volunteer effort, which is something that I've taken a more active role in the last few years, probably most in 2018. So we created a video for before you tonight. It's 7 minutes long. I could have made it half an hour long. I really tried to keep it shorter because there's just so much that's gone on and so many things that have been accomplished. So this is really just a summary of it. When we started looking at the hours, we have recorded over 800 hours of community volunteer work downtown, and another 740 plus hours of DDA board and Main Street volunteers, which the Main Street committees and the DDA board, that's a group of only probably maybe 10 or 12 people. So 740 hours across that number, that's a lot of hours that were put in. And part of what we're trying to do, and that I think has been well established, but that we're still building on, is trying to attract more volunteers, trying to attract quality volunteers, trying to find people that we can delegate more to. I know that for myself, it could have easily been another 40-hour-a-week job last summer, and unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time all the time to donate, but if we can continue to create this positive culture for our volunteers downtown and attract more quality volunteers, I think, and not that any volunteer isn't a quality volunteer, let me rephrase that. Volunteers who are willing to help with some of the things that nobody really wants to help with. One thing I learned is everybody wants to plant flowers, nobody wants to haul the manure. So we've got to continue to find people who are willing to do that kind of thing. And we do have a volunteer recruitment event coming up sometime in February where we're going to put the word out, hey, we need help. And we're hoping that by structuring that a little bit better and when a person comes up and says, hey, I want to help, we want to have something ready. We want to be able to say, here's where we need help, instead of saying, we'll call you. Because what happens is we lose that person as a volunteer. So we really want to have them signing up, committed, having tasks, having jobs, and that's what we're working on for 2019 as we move forward, so that we can take some of that burden off of. And you all know, I know that you all know that usually it's the same group of 10 people that volunteer for everything in this community. So, and I'm kidding. I know the numbers are bigger than that, but we want to. Oh, time's up for me. So we want to just continue to grow that, and that's it. I'm not here. I said to Justin, am I supposed to ask for something? Anyway, so here's the Main Street Volunteers 2018 in 7 minutes of great fun, actually.
Great job. Excellent.
I cried a little bit the first time I watched it. I just want to say Dana has been such a huge help, and so many other people in the room, Josh, Kelly, a lot of people here. A lot of times if you're busy at work or, running around, you don't know just how much people are out there doing things every second of the summer. I mean, that was just this last summer, and every year for the last, since we've had it downtown, people are doing things like that. So huge thanks to everybody involved.
I'll tell you, nothing like a video to help send the word out. It's really well done.
I don't know how long Dana took getting those pictures, but I think it was a long time. So thank you, Dana.
Great job. Great job. No. Anything else? Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, that was a great video. Thanks, Dana, for doing that and being a part, so, in the DDA, because huge asset right there with you coming in. Main Street, becoming a Main Street community, I think, has definitely helped our city, and you can definitely see the changes that we've made as a community, especially in the downtown area, within the last 3 or 4 years, and it is all because of volunteerism. And one thing I always try to say, I call it the Main Street Challenge. Try to donate 10 hours a year. That's it. If everybody in town donated 10 hours a year, which is very minimal, I did that this week, it would make a world of difference. So just keep that in the back of your head.
Okay. Anyone else? Very nice. We're going to the next.
Item 2 under communications is also from the Downtown Development Authority, budget amendment request to create full-time Main Street coordinator position.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to present on this before Director Nepper, the information in the background memorandum. So as commissioners are aware, in accordance with Public Act 197 of 1975, the Downtown Development Authority operates as a public body corporate. It is a component unit of the city that is more closely related in structure to the Sault Ste. Marie Economic Development Corporation than a city department such as assessing or public works. Accordingly, the DDA has driven the development of the proposed funding model being presented to the City Commission in an effort to create a full-time Main Street coordinator position. As a bit of background, Director Nepper and I met shortly after the February 2018 goal-setting session to discuss how the City Commission goal of supporting a full-time position may be accomplished. Based on this meeting, it was concluded that the DDA and its very active Finance Committee and Board could research means through which the DDA could generate revenue or reduce expenditures sufficient to cover the additional costs. The proposal in front of the City Commission represents several months of research and effort by the DDA, during which time a variety of funding alternatives were examined. The proposal is rooted in the expectation this position will eventually become self-supporting through expanded internal capacity, increased fundraising, and increased Main Street support. Importantly, the DDA Board approved the proposal to convert the existing part-time events coordinator position into a full-time Main Street coordinator post with the qualification that a continuation assessment be performed every 6 months in order to ensure the additional structural expenditures can be supported by the DDA and to affirm that speculative projected revenue goals are achieved. It was understood by attending DDA board members the position may need to be returned to a part-time status in the event the proposal is not achieved. Importantly, it should be noted that this proposal does not depend upon general fund support. As indicated previously, the relationship between the city and DDA is unique in that the city has taken on substantial portions of the financial obligations of the district and tax increment financing districts, and further provides an annual local contribution to the DDA from the general fund. These contributions may be viewed as an investment in the future of the downtown and the implementation of the Main Street model in light of continued declines in downtown taxable values, the increasing emphasis placed on downtowns by the state, and the taxable value returns that can be gained on a per-acre basis when development occurs downtown. Concurrently, given the statutory relationship between the city and DDA, the existing financial constraints being experienced by the DDA, as presented in the included materials, and the fact the Main Street model encourages the DDA to operate as a nonprofit, it is hoped increased staffing at the DDA may also support the efforts of the authority to work toward increased self-reliance through the generation of additional revenues and long-term increases to downtown taxable values. Thank you. This time I would defer to Director Nepper.
Okay.
Thank you. Very well said, City Manager, and I appreciate the introduction. We've been operating at the Downtown Development Authority office since I've been here. Well, I think in 2002 was when the first full-time manager was hired at the DDA. Lee Shurry was hired. Lee Brown took over for him. And since I've been here, we've operated kind of with a mishmash of interns. I think since 2011, when I came, we had Lake State interns, and then we built up our capacity in the office to have a part-time staff person about 3 years ago, 2 years ago or so. But what's happening with my role at the Downtown Development Authority, and I think with currently Lindsay Ellis, who works for me, our roles are really focused very much on kind of two train tracks running at the same time. One is mid-range and long-range development downtown. How do we go from where we are now to having major economic development, businesses moving in, properties being developed, properties bought and sold, new construction happening, grants, grant applications, infrastructure upgrades, parking garage maintenance and management. A lot of that has not been able to happen at its fullest level that it could because of our time and capacity for myself. One of the biggest things that's happening is as we're working on all of those major mid-range and long-range projects, day-to-day tasks, as you saw in the video that we just watched, happen every second. So there's always a need that's constantly going on, constantly being needed to be addressed, whether it's an upcoming festival, whether it's someone with a parking issue, whether it's a maintenance concern, a sinkhole that's popped up, marketing, advertising, PR, new businesses that need to be assisted. And so we have what I see as short-term needs that my office has to provide for, as well as mid-range and long-range development goals that we have to work towards as well. And so I've done a fair amount of research for similar cities and where their staffing is for their DDAs, where we are definitely operating in a very small staff capacity compared to neighboring communities. Marquette's running with 5 staff. Alpena is just getting ready to go full-time with their second staff person. Traverse City probably has about 30 from what I can tell. Petoskey has a full-time support staff person for their downtown manager, Escanaba. And so one of the things when I first started, I come from a very fiscal conservative background, and when we didn't have the taxes to, especially when our taxes downtown kind of took a turn for the worst in 2012, I started to feel like we can't do anything. We can't afford anything. We're going to have to just operate in an incredibly tighten the belts and ride it out type of an attitude. But one of the things about downtowns, and again to that volunteer video, we can get things done regardless. And one of the biggest changes, as City Manager mentioned in his memo, is kind of taking on that nonprofit approach to operating as a downtown development authority. And so since I started and having all the support that we've had at our office, in 2011 our budget goal for event revenues, for example, or for non-tax revenues was about $2,000. This year we're bringing in over $50,000. And so in about 6 years, we've generated a substantial more amount of non-tax revenues that comes in the form of sponsorships, comes in the form of in-kind donations, straight up pledges. There are businesses out there that are now pledging annual, almost like a membership to support downtown and what we're doing. Grants as much as we possibly can pull in. Even merchandise sales. We've bought T-shirts and sold them, upcharged for T-shirts. So anything that we can do to generate additional income to support our mission and our goal is what we're really trying and striving for. And so just really quickly on what we're projecting to fund the position of what I'm calling Main Street Coordinator, and actually backing up a little bit, there's a lot of discussion about what exactly our staff person's role would be compared to my role, things that we have to do on a daily basis, fundraising, donations, sponsorships, special events, logistics, setup, volunteer coordination, promoting and advertising, developing and monitoring timelines, ensuring deadlines are met, collaborating with other community organizations, developing and working relationships with other nonprofits, groups, service groups, and businesses. Like in that video, just to get one of the pictures was of over 40 Lake State resident advisors redoing the entire farmers market. They all volunteered, but it took days of preparation, actually probably close to 2 weeks of preparation to make sure we had the mulch, the tools, the proper the background had to be set up, the ability to put people to work. Things like we had ISD students in a special program that volunteered all summer, but we had to assign daily jobs for them. Where are the cigarette butts to pick up? Where are the weeds that need to be pulled? What gardens should take priority? So a tremendous amount of logistics goes into making sure that we are building up and getting things done and using people effectively. Negotiating and monitoring with our service providers, things like right now we're in the process of booking all of our music in the park bands. It takes weeks to make sure that we have contracts set up, that we've identified the right bands, that we have motel rooms booked for them, things like that. Designing posters, flyers, displays, monthly newsletters, calendars, updating our websites, organizing the committees. That is, I mean, as many of you know, when you serve on a committee, somebody has to figure out where to meet, how to get the room, how to make sure people have an agenda ready. We are currently running 6 active committees that are meeting sometimes daily. Our design committee, which Dana talked about, our promotions committee, our promotions and outreach committee, which is doing a lot of our fundraising and our events and festivals, our economic vitality committee, which headed up things like the historic banner displays, coordinating with property owners on how to get banners in vacant windows, how to encourage new businesses to come in, one of the big ones, and Josh Billington helped with this, and Tracy Leighton is on that committee as well. This spring we had a real estate showcase that we coordinated all the vacancies on the 400 block of Ashland and got over 15 potential businesses to tour. And so that committee meets regularly, and then our promotions, organizations, design. Our retail committee, we're meeting every month with retailers, getting our retailers to refer business to each other, to build relationships with each other. We have a parking committee that is meeting every month, giving us parking advice, and then we also have a bar and restaurant owners committee that is active in working on strengthening our bar. Well, it wasn't active, but it's going to be active coming up. We just had a good meeting this last month. So all of that is happening at the same time that we are working to apply for grants like the rental rehabilitation grant, which can take up to, I would estimate, 30 to 40 hours of staff time just to apply for a grant like that, and at the same time taking care of everyone's issues. So all that being said, point is, if we want our downtown to grow, and if we want to be ready for the Sue Locke's job, which is centered downtown. And if we want to build our capacity to be able to continue to rehab buildings, get people to move downtown, get jobs downtown. Right now we're at, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but we're at over 1,700 employees in our downtown area in the DDA district, over 200 residents. That is a small town in and of itself, and we are responsible for taking care of nearly 100% of the issues or coordinating how to address those issues in that area. So what we are proposing to fund approximately, for the rest of this fiscal year, approximately $11,000 additional need, and then going into the next coming years, it'll be close to $23,000. That is to provide a full-time position and benefits that would be required for that position. We're doing a lot of moving around in our existing budget, so we're reducing our travel budget a little bit. We are proposing that we will be able to have a higher profit margin for our events revenues. We were projecting about a $3,000 profit margin. We're projecting $5,000 to close out the year. And then on the application of certified grant administrator funds that I am earning for the DDA through the facade grants and other future grants that we've been applying for. So that'll cover this remainder of this year through June 30th, and then we'll be at the same time preparing kind of a larger strategy on some bigger revenue sources. One big one, actually, that Dana is heading up is a new marathon, or a 5K race. I'm not a marathon. They'll be going through the locks. We're projecting in 2019 a $5,000 profit margin for that event. Increased general support by coming up with a better and more strategic and larger outreach for our Main Street pledge drives, which are just annual giving pledges, getting closer to a $5,000 increase there. And then increasing corporate sponsorship sales. That's something that we had our first ever $5,000 annual sponsorship for an entire downtown event slate. Cooper Dental came on this last July and sponsored at $5,000 and was a signature corporate sponsor. And they helped us do everything from sidewalk sales to beer fest to sponsoring the Christmas carriage. There was a Cooper Dental banner on the Christmas carriage. Those opportunities are, we're thinking more and more about how to make sure we're partnering with businesses and bringing in large annual sponsors. So we're hoping to get 2 more $5,000 sponsors in 2019, 2020. And then other operating funds would include smaller grants, mini grants for things like employee support for bringing in music in the park, things like that. And then based on future grant applications, there will be most likely a stream of certified grant administrator funds that I'll be generating through more rental rehab projects, more facade grants that the state pays. And so we're projecting about $8,000 there. So it's really, it's not without risk, but as the city manager mentioned, it's something that we'll be evaluating at a 6-month basis to make sure that we're on track with our revenue generating projections. And I will be working along with the board on making sure we are actively bringing in larger sponsors, being strategic about how to make sure that people feel like they're getting a return on their investment for that type of giving. And really, it's about offsetting our loss in taxes in the past and building up and continuing to build up our capacity in the future. So, any questions?
Just a comment. I remember the discussion and budget time last year, where the goal was, to provide the $20,000 roughly. And I appreciate the diligence of the DDA board members and the, I'm sure speak for the commission, in trying to work this where you are self-sustaining type of thing, where it just doesn't happen one year, but it continues. There's no question you're busy. If you've ever been in Justin's office and Lindsay also, they're just moving all the time, and the volunteers are, I mean, you just couldn't do it without them. So that's I like the I like how the organization is explained how you're going to get to where you want to get to, and I think it's a great idea, more than an idea, but the great effort, and I think you'll be successful in keeping a track every so often, looking at that the margins and where you're going. I think it'll be successful. So good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I think this is, I know this was a goal of ours, and I think it's, the time's right to do it, especially, as Justin said, with the locks coming in, and the amount of work that you've done in the last 4 years, I just can't thank you enough for it, and I'm excited with having a full-time help in your office to see what more you can even do with the economic development and the buildings and stuff, so keep up the good work.
Commissioner Talentino.
Yeah, Justin, I know you've been working on this, longer than most of us sitting here have, been here. I think the timing's right, and I think you've drawn up a really good job description for that position. I think you've got it all set there, and to mirror on what the mayor had said, that was one of our goals, was to make this happen. So myself personally, I feel the timing's right for that. Being said, I'd make the motion.
Okay. We have a motion of been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 3 under communications is from Community Housing Network Incorporated, presentation on Malcolm Commons project and request for payment in lieu of tax ordinance.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So as commissioners are aware, The Sioux Area Public Schools issued a request for proposals for the disposition of the Malcolm School building and grounds located on West Spruce Street in the fall of 2018. In response to the RFP issued by the schools, Community Housing Network, based in Troy, Michigan, submitted the included response dated October 30th, 2018. As outlined within the response to the RFP, Community Housing Network offered a purchase price of $400,000 to acquire the Malcolm School grounds to facilitate a development that would adaptively reuse the existing school building and construct new units on the surrounding property. CHN is proposing to construct 1 and 2 bedroom units through a combination of housing tax credits and private equity investment. The project would create 37 housing units. As noted within the included materials, CHN tentatively plans to create the housing for local workers and seniors as to be determined through a market study to be initiated and completed by the developer. The project narratives also details that the application of funds for the development would include $400,000 in acquisition costs, $6 million in construction costs, $1,030,000 in professional services and soft costs, $110,000 in tax credit and syndication costs, nearly $1.2 million for a developer fee, $400,000 in debt and financing costs, and $270,000 for startup cost reserves and escrows. Further information regarding CHN as an organization was also provided in the included RFP response. Following a November 12, 2018 City Commission work session at which the topic was discussed, CHN and Sioux Area Public Schools negotiated further on the property transaction and reached an agreement on terms in December. Of note, it is the understanding of City Administration they are very close to executing a purchase agreement, which Mr. Felton here will likely address tonight. As Commissioners are aware, the City would need to adopt a payment in lieu of tax ordinance in support of the proposed development for CHN to be eligible to obtain these incentives from the state. On a closely related note, CHN has also confirmed that it has come to an agreement on terms for the acquisition of property situated on Ashman Street, which could be developed to include a commercial component as well as market rate residential housing. As noted by CHN during the November 12th work session, the development of this other property would be financially supported through CHN's proposed Malcolm School property development. In order to further facilitate understanding and dialogue regarding a payment in lieu of tax structure, a draft payment in lieu of tax ordinance has been included for review. A version of this ordinance would need to be adopted by the City Commission in order for CHN to be eligible to secure low-income housing tax credits from MISTA. A draft municipal services agreement has also been included for review by the City Commission. Currently, 2 payment in lieu of tax concepts have been identified for consideration by the City Commission, should it wish to move forward with supporting this project. The first structure would provide for the adoption of an ordinance which includes an ordinance-based municipal service charge equivalent to 10% of the annual shelter rents actually collected by the housing project during each operating year. The second structure would provide for an ordinance including a 7% charge paired with an MSA, through which CHN would pay the city $7,000 per annum, subject to agreed upon annual increases. The ordinance would remain in effect and would not terminate as long as a mortgage loan remains outstanding and unpaid on the project, and the project remains subject to the income and rent restrictions established by MISTA. The city attorney has also included a provision within the draft ordinance stating that it would automatically be repealed should the sponsor not commence site construction within 3 years of the effective date of the ordinance, should it be adopted. Included information supplied by CHN projects that a 10% service charge would generate just over $6,200 in revenue for the city and just over $14,600 in revenue for all other taxing units. Similarly, the information provided projects a 7% service charge would generate nearly $4,400 in revenue for the city and just over $10,200 in revenue for all other local taxing units. If an MSA as detailed were to be paired with the ordinance structure including a 7% service charge, the city would generate revenue approximating $11,382 per annum. This information anticipates net collected rents annually to approximate nearly $209,000. It's important to emphasize these figures are projections as prepared by CHN. Of note, the revenues received by all other local taxing units would decrease as the ordinance-based service charge decreases. Any payment received from municipal services agreement would be remitted directly to the city. CHN has indicated that based on its experience, the proposed development, if placed on the ad valorem tax roll, would have an approximate taxable value of nearly $1.5 million, calculated assuming 37 units at a value of $40,000 per unit. CHN projects this would result in the city collecting just under $29,000 per year. It should be noted that this was projected using the income approach to valuation, and if a taxable value were to be established by the assessing department, it would need to verify an income approach valuation using market rates and reconcile the information with the cost approach. The city currently, according to information from the audit completed for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2018, details that existing annual housing abatements total just over $420,000 for all taxing units. It should be noted the current presentation is being provided in order to update the City Commission and community in regards to the current status of the proposed development. It is currently CHN's intention to request City Commission approval of a first reading of a payment in lieu of tax ordinance during the February 18th regular meeting. Thereafter, should a first reading be approved, an ordinance could be adopted by the City Commission during the March 4th regular meeting. Additional information provided for review by the City Commission includes an updated pro forma, as well as a formal letter of request, as well additional information identified by City Administration regarding challenges associated with the redevelopment of school properties has been included for review. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. And tonight we have with us CJ, who we've met before.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Evening.
Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, thank you for the very thorough review. I'm confused now. I think we gave most of that too, if I'm correct. But as we discussed, we were here on November 12th for a special meeting on Veterans Day. We presented some of the ideas that we were thinking about here in the city. Obviously, Oliver has brought you a little bit more up to date on where we're at this point in time. And really, what we'd like to do tonight is just give you some of those updates from our perspective, make a short presentation here, allow you an opportunity to answer some questions before we actually head into this process of trying to get all the city approvals that we need to move the project forward. Perfect. Okay. This is very interesting. We are seeking historic designation for the Malcolm School. It's got a very deep history. I think in conversations with the city, that was something that you all felt was something that would be important. I know in talking with Dr. Hall, the school district would love to see that legacy live on as a historic building in the city. We happened to find this newspaper article from April of 1941 when they were dedicating the building. And you can, as you see in the title there, it says G.C. Malcolm Elementary School, a thing of beautiful utility. It served that purpose for 77 years. Obviously, the school district decided it couldn't serve that utility anymore, but we have found another utility for it that we think will hopefully serve another 77 years or longer. We have named the project since we were here last time. It will be known as Malcolm Commons. Just to bring you up to date a little bit on where we're at regarding the option agreement with the school district. We had a conference call with the Finance Committee, I believe, on December 7th, and the Finance Committee recommended to the full Board of Education that they accept our bid, and they did do that and approved Dr. Hall to go into negotiations for us to consummate an agreement at their December 11th meeting. Unfortunately, the school district closed for a couple of weeks for the holidays. We didn't get everything we wanted to get done before the holidays. We reconvened. I would say discussions with Dr. Hall have been very congenial and friendly, and the two of us wanted to get this done. I had really, really hoped that we could hold up a fully executed option agreement tonight to let you know that we are 100% full go. Unfortunately, the guys that negotiated the deal have lawyers. And the lawyers decided last week they needed to earn some of their fees, I guess. So we're that close. Should be done this week. It has not slowed us down at all. We're in preparation on site plan right now, which you'll see some initial ideas in a couple of minutes. That will be submitted, needs to be submitted by the end of January, be presented at the February 28th Planning Commission meeting. As Oliver mentioned in his summary, we hope to be back here for first reading of the pilot on the 18th of February, and then a second reading and possible adoption on the 4th of March. If all that happens as planned, we submit the application to MISTA on the 1st of April, and anticipate that we would have a funding decision by the really July 1st at latest. As I think we told you when we were here in November, you have got a fantastic city to do this kind of work in. There's a process by which these applications are scored, and Sault Ste. Marie, anywhere near the downtown area, the projects just score incredibly well. We will have a highly competitive application, and I think as we told you in November, had it been submitted in the last funding round, which those applications went in on October 1st, it would have been funded as is configured today. So we're very, very hopeful. One of the other important things, we came up yesterday, we were here all day today, we'll be here all day tomorrow. We met with all of the major local banks today. We feel very strongly it's important to have local partners involved in the development. And in particular, on the lending side, with the permanent debt on the project, having a local partner here we think is a really attractive thing for everybody. And there was interest, which was great to see. We're also meeting with the Community Foundation tomorrow in hopes that we've had some preliminary discussions, and we hope that they will decide to be a partner with us in this development. Having their involvement, having local eyes and ears, here every day, somebody that's got a stake in the success, we think is very important. It's part of what we believe in. We like to build and stay, and it's hard. You can't do that when you're not here every day. You've got to have people that you've got relationships with that can watch over the development. Okay, this is the preliminary site plan. We showed you a block diagram, very elementary block diagram in November. You can see, if you look at, don't pay too much attention to the buildings outside of the picture. You can see at the top half of the photograph where the buildings are overlaid, that's the existing school. The orange units that are to the, what would be to the south of it are the new construction units that we're going to add. Do want to just add on this that we're seeking the historic designation, and the historic people may have some input on the addition as far as where it's placed. That's a little bit out of our hands, but they're involved. They're working on processing the application right now. We'll get feedback on that. But what we submit for our site plan will be what we intend to have approved. This gives you the elevations. Looking at it, the top is the south elevation, so looking at it as from what would be Spruce Street. We understand that actually used to be the back of the school, which most people would consider to be the front of the school, but so that's looking at it as if you were out on Spruce, and then the east elevation is the second drawing, and that is as if you were in the credit union parking lot, essentially, looking at it that way. Now, we've also mentioned and talked about what we think is another important component to this. We have been looking at 724 and 722 Ashman, which we would intend to acquire renovate and bring back on the market as commercial property on the first floor, possibly have some market rate apartments also on the first floor, depend a little bit on who the prospective tenants would be in the commercial space, and then complete renovation of the 5 apartments that are above the commercial space, and those would all be market rate units. And I think that there is, we know there's a need for more market rate in the city, particularly with what's likely to happen, pressure on available housing with the Locks project coming. And we're very happy to do this. We're excited to do this. We have not done this before, and it's a big, this is not a typical nonprofit housing developer type of project, but it's a community development project, which is an important part of how we view our work. And I think there's other community development opportunities here in the city as well. Construction on this could begin as early as this fall. We won't complete, we've negotiated this agreement out. We really can't sign it until we've signed the agreement with the schools, because otherwise we're going to obligate ourselves to something that might be really difficult to accomplish for us. But as soon as we get that done, this one's ready to go. As soon as we know that we have the funding secured for the Malcolm project, we're ready to close on that and get underway immediately. We're really excited about it. So with that, really concludes what we prepared tonight. I know there's a whole lot of information on the pilot. We haven't really, I think it's up to the city to decide what the structure of that might look like for you, what you think would serve the city best. But Al Martin, our development consultant, is here, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you have for us.
Okay. Thank you, CJ. Questions? Commissioner Collins?
What's the thought, I know when you talked about the historic designation, how does that affect the project from whether or not you get it or you don't get it?
There's a critical piece to that. In the MSHDA has what they call a qualified allocation plan that's developed every 2 years. And within that is the method by which the applications are scored, and there's points awarded for various categories. It's highly competitive. The historic designation of the school is worth 5 points. It's so competitive that 5 to 7 points, either gained or lost, is probably the difference between being successful or not successful. So it's not a make or break on it. If we had not had the historic, when we talked about if we'd submitted it last round, had we not had, if we'd had everything else that we anticipate having this time and not the historic designation, it still would have been funded.
So, in layman's terms, basically, it's like extra credit, right? Basically, you get the historic site, so you're going to have extra, by having it the designation, you get an extra 5 to 7 points.
You get extra 5 points in the application.
But you mentioned that by having the historic designation, that you also, they might have a say in how the site plan is set up, correct?
They might, yes. And I think what they're indicating they might be a little concerned about is building something, again, in front of what is now considered the front of the school and somewhat blocking the view of the school. So we've actually got the architects looking at other ways to configure it now, if need be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Baker?
Just off the experience we just got with WODA at the last meeting, is all the phase 1 and phase 2 and all the testing, so when you present us with something, we know that's what we're going to go on.
Here's where we're at on everything. Environmentals have not been ordered. They will be next week. They take no more than 4 weeks to get that completed. Survey, we actually expected to have it Friday, and it's actually one of the places where the attorneys got involved. We ordered a survey. We also ordered a title commitment ourselves just to ensure that there was nothing that would prevent the school district from delivering marketable title to us. We don't think that would be a problem, but
It's been a long time.
it's been a long time. It's been 70, probably 80 years since anybody's ever done that or looked at it, and if anybody's ever gotten involved in a real estate transaction where there's some odd title things involved, there are some strange things that people used to do a long time ago, and sometimes they show up. So to answer your question, yes, by the time it gets to, Planning Commission will have everything they need to know if the site plan can be approved. When you are here, when we end up back here on the 18th, you will have everything that you need at that point to consider, to at least consider if you want to move forward with looking at that as a second reading.
Commissioner Talentino?
Okay, for the record, how many market rates are going to be in this?
There will be no market rate apartments in this development.
Okay, none whatsoever. Is there any way we can possibly look at getting some market rates in there?
On this particular deal, it won't work. However, one of the things that came out of the tax reform package last year was they changed the income restrictions for these types of developments using the housing tax credits. We can go up to 80% of the area median income, which, as long as we don't average above 60. So we've got 14 of these units at 80% of the area median income. And I think the rent on those was over $1,000 a month. Was that correct for two-bedroom? Yeah. Which is above your market rate here. And the fact of the matter is, really, your median rents here are very close to affordable rents, fair market rents. So there's not a big difference. Now that will probably, that's likely to change in the next couple of years with everything people expect to have happen here, but today that's kind of where things are at.
Right. Just so the commission, you know, you all probably know how I feel on this. I just want to protect us in the city. I don't want another high-quality vinyl building popping up in our DDA area. That's why I'm thinking we shouldn't do anything until the code-based form is totally in effect and rolling. And then we have a leg to stand on for what type of building is put in our DDA area, which we have been concentrating on.
Commissioner Baker?
Also, have you decided what type of facility, whether it's going to be senior, or have you made a decision?
Excuse me, the market study was ordered from MISH a couple weeks ago. I know for sure it will not be a dedicated senior development. That I can answer. But seniors are every bit, I mean, if you're not a 55 plus or 62 plus development, your seniors are evaluated just exactly as anybody else would be.
Commissioner Collins?
When you were talking about the percentages based on Commissioner Tolentino's question, can you put that into dollar amounts for the perspective?
Sure.
Of median?
I can give you the one I know off the top of my head.
Sure.
80% of the area median income for a family of three is about $43,000. So it's working, these are working wage folks, hardworking people, I'm sure in many cases. One of the things too that you probably want to, you may or may not know, area median income is a county figure. Okay, so and in reality what probably happens is the rest of the county lowers your AMI in the city. So it's probably slightly higher than that. You know, if you think about, if you just looked at the city, 80 AMI would probably be a little bit higher.
So I guess my question is this: if you have a family of three, like you said, right? So husband, wife, 3 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or husband, wife, 1 kid.
Husband, wife, 1 kid.
Okay, husband, wife, 1 kid, make $43,000 a year. How much are they going to pay in rent in the new facility?
At 80%, I believe it was $1,000. It's a little over $1,000 as it sits today. Now we might decide that nobody's going to want to live there if they have to pay $1,000, right? And look elsewhere. But it will bear that rent.
Meaning that that's what you could ask.
That's what we could, exactly. That's what we could ask. So I don't think anybody would suggest that we should charge more than market rate to house folks, right? Regardless of what they make?
I think that that's probably.
It's probably-
market rate, but, you know.
Yeah.
So the reality is that even though you call it not market rate, it's actually market rate in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah, and that's actually true in a lot of places. In Oak Park, where we just finished, it was really interesting. We had, this is locked, the development is locked into a suburban neighborhood. The cap there, this was done before they raised the limit from 60% to 80%. So all of these homeowners surrounding the development, even though it's technically funded with low-income housing tax credits, all of these homeowners, almost all of them were eligible to live there because that's what the income was in the neighborhood. So we don't like to call it, affordable housing or low-income housing. That's a term that means something different to everybody. Kind of the fact is, what's happening is that incomes are rising much slower than rents and home prices almost everywhere, and it's making it really difficult for people to live where they work.
But the reality is, in Sault Ste. Marie, I would love for you to find me somebody who's renting an apartment for $1,000 a month.
We heard 800 to 900 probably tops.
Exactly. That's my point. So when people say that it's a low-income facility or that we need market rate, in essence, it's actually market rate at the end of the day.
It is as long as they can qualify.
Sure. But
And
the
that-
reality is that it's still market rate if they qualify.
Yeah.
And they have to have income, so it's not subsidized housing.
There are no supportive housing units in this. We will accept a housing choice voucher if somebody has one, because you should. That's actually less risk than.
And I just want everybody to kind of understand where I'm at on this issue, so you guys know, is that when I look at this, I look at a developer coming into Sault Ste. Marie. And when you talk about market rate and whether or not we get market rate as a city, tell me how that affects what we get in taxes. If you have a building that's worth $100,000 and we get $5,000 a year in taxes, it doesn't matter what you're charging for rent in that building, we're getting $5,000. So my point is that when I look at the question we have here is, are we gonna take a payment in lieu of taxes, right? Which is, what would that be equivalent in taxes that we're getting today? Which that's a question I have. What are we getting in taxes on that building today?
Nothing.
Zero.
Okay, zero. And then according to estimates, if it's a building that's worth $1.5 million, we would get $29,000, right? Again, has nothing to do with whether or not it's market rate apartments or not, right? It's the value of the building. And then if we take a payment in lieu of taxes, we're gonna get something like, what was the number, 17,000 or something?
14 something. City Manager?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner Collins. With a 7% service charge, it would look to be approximately $14,600 for all taxing units. That excludes the municipal services agreement, and at $7,000 added to the city portion of the annual net shelter rents, that's about $11,382 projected per year that the city would collect.
So just so everybody understands, here's how I look at it. I look at it like, it doesn't matter whether or not they charge market rate or not. That has nothing to do with what we're gonna receive in taxes. You have somebody that says, we're gonna come in and we're gonna build a building for $1.5 million, and that's what it's gonna be valued at. We're gonna put a $1.5 million building in your downtown, but we don't wanna pay $29,000 in taxes because because of the pilot program. We'll give you $14,000 in basically taxes, in lieu of taxes, right? So if somebody says that they're gonna come in and put a $1.5 million building downtown, and all they're asking for is that you take a payment in lieu of taxes, the choice is you say, no, we don't want a $1.5 million building, right? And somebody comes in and puts one in for $900,000, and you get $14,000 in taxes.
And no benefit.
Yeah, no benefit. So just so you guys understand where I'm coming from.
Sure.
Like when you start talking about like market rate versus subsidized rates and so forth, that has no effect on what the city is gonna get out of that project.
True. But you know what, we should probably separate that because you have tax credit rents. Those rents are set. They're established. They are established up front. Your market rate is your market rate. It could theoretically be doubled in that in 5 years.
Sure.
Probably won't be, but it could be. So that's a state of economic, that's your current economic situation, which is likely to change. But the thing that I'd like to suggest, and I think we talked about this when we were here in November, is that the question you're asking really isn't so much about this development. It's a city policy question of where do we want to approve tax abatement and where don't we? And I might offer that I will offer, there were only 2 bids for this particular property, and we were the only bid that involved something that would produce any tax revenue. So there was no private developer. We had no competition lining up to do something that's going to generate all kinds of revenue.
Well, sure, a private developer is going to try to get away from taxes.
But I think it's the site itself. The site itself attracted, we were the only offer that will result in any tax revenue being collected for the city. So is there a market for any other type of entity that might pay ad valorem taxes?
Good point.
Thank you.
Mr. Gary.
Yeah, the only point I was going to make was that in Texas. So you've
Yeah.
made both points, that you were the only bidder that was going to actually pay taxes, and that we're getting 0 on it now. So anything is an improvement, and $6 million plus investment in a piece of property on that block would be excellent. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Baker, last question.
Yeah, just on my concerns with this would just to be the phase 1, phase 2, making sure that everything's set, and then on top of everything they just said about as far as receiving taxes and not getting any now, the potential development further down on Ashman Street for market rate and retail on a block that has needed it for a while. So I would love to see that happen. So hopefully we get it worked out.
And just to address environmental again, we can't submit an application without environmentals that allow us to proceed.
The process works. And
Yeah.
ultimately, going from a 60% area median income to 80% area median income is a huge benefit to the city and to the developers also, but for the city especially because it includes more people. And without question, that's the working families type of thing. So I think it's a great project, and your commitment to do something down in the Ashman Street area looks like that will follow through, and we thank you for your diligence on that for sure. So, Commissioner Collins.
I just want to say that I do agree with Commissioner Tolentino, though, on the form-based code. So I know that we don't have it actually approved yet, but is it possible for you to work with like the DDA that when you actually do the plan that you can look at what we're proposing to put in place?
Yeah.
We've
See if it
talked.
can come in line with it.
We've talked about that during the day today, and I think you're going to find. And I know part of where the question's coming from. I think you're going to find our plans will be very appropriate.
Okay. And again, the city manager has a statement to make about the form-based code.
Yeah, just a note of clarification that the property that would be the subject of this development is not included in the downtown district. And the form-based code is being developed for the downtown district. But that being said, in the site plan review process, material selection adjoining residential areas is of course of importance, and I'm sure that that would be a discussion point throughout the process.
And we're sensitive to the fact that technically it's not in the downtown district, but it's 2 blocks away. And for all practical purposes, it's about right there. And we're selling people that we're talking to on the development's proximity to downtown. So they're linked.
Thank you, CJ.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we are into the city manager's report. And he's going to go to the podium because this is the year-end report. Yeah.
Yes. Unless there's a motion to entertain accepting this and placing it on file. I do know that this will be more brief than last year's presentation. So good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, team members, and community. It is my pleasure to present to you the end of the year report for 2018. 2018 was filled with exciting community-oriented events, long-standing traditions, such as the economic powerhouse of the annual I-500 race, the regionally noted annual opening of the Sioux Locks, the volunteer-driven Music in the Park, and the 23rd citywide cleanup were joined by special functions such as the Founders Festival. An innovative downtown cash mob concept was launched. Community beautification was pursued more boldly than ever, and hundreds of volunteers poured themselves into Main Street-led initiatives as wonderfully demonstrated tonight. In total, over 30 events were held downtown and citywide. The year was also a time to reflect on the French settlement of 1668, as well as the presence of the Anishinaabe people in the area for millennia. The events of the year serve as a reminder of the many partnerships necessary to the hard work of community building. As part of the 350th milestone, the city was proud to collaborate with the Sioux tribe on the return of the Methodist Mission property and to advance partnerships on Malcolm Park, economic development, infrastructure, and improvements to the community's transportation network. Stronger working relationships were also cemented with the Bay Mills Indian community through collaborations on special events, the city's support of Bay Mills Indian community establishing a health facility, and on quality of life issues. Quality of life, of course, extends to the city's valued relationship with Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. With integrated economies and social fabrics, we worked on transportation and logistics as well as joint economic development under the binational agreement. Long-standing relationships and friendship at the local level have served as a reminder that community can endure a rapidly evolving global context. It is within this context the city was pleased to welcome a delegation from its sister city, Rio, Japan. Generous community and host family contributions supported the reception of 10 delegates, building goodwill and friendship and elevating overall Michigan-Shiga Prefecture bonds. The city has also been proud to join its partners to further integrate the Coast Guard into the fabric of the community. Accomplishments range from welcoming packet distributions to offering assistance to members transitioning into the community. In light of the ongoing partial federal shutdown, these efforts are but one example of the desire of the community to express appreciation for our service members and federal employees. At the heart of many partnerships and accomplishments rests the Sioux Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Its event support, its work to secure a $25,000 grant for 350th functions, and its work to advocate for quality of life continues to have a vital impact on the entire area. Excellent relationships with Chippewa County and county-level agencies also continued in 2018 through collaborations resisting the erosion of services from negative tax tribunal rulings, promoting public safety, public works, and public health, and expanding the foreign trade zone to enhance regional competitiveness. Regional competitiveness was also advanced through collaboration with LSSU, particularly on the Center for Freshwater Research and Education initiative. On this project and in several other areas, the city and LSSU worked with the understanding that increased enrollment and campus vibrancy are key to community growth and resiliency. Educational opportunity was also promoted through the city's work with Sioux Area Public Schools and other partners to establish a high school law enforcement program, complete analyses leading to $600,000 in funding for safe routes to school, and engaging on issues of shared interest and student protection. Support for the high school law enforcement program from the Eastern Upper Peninsula Intermediate School District was also crucial during 2018, as was the support of the district in preserving services by resisting significant tax tribunal losses. Evaluations of the local transportation sector in 2018 required a significant time investment from key stakeholders, and the support received from the International Bridge Administration, as well as community action, informed efforts to modernize the bridge service. The hard work of community building, of course, is not limited to institutions of government or higher education. The community is blessed with committed service organizations and nonprofits diligently striving for the advancement of Sault Ste. Marie. In terms of bicycle-oriented improvements, partnerships with Bike Friendly Sioux supported the pursuit of a bicycle-friendly community status, and the city has been pleased to collaborate with Bike Friendly Sioux and all local bicycling enthusiasts on improvements to benefit area residents. Changing gears, area residents witnessed a relaunch in how recreation services are delivered. The city hired a recreation coordinator, crystallized a long-term vision for the Sherman Park Campground, launched an online reservation system for Annie Osborne Campground, and laid a sturdy foundation for Annie Osborne Campground to achieve its maximum potential. To that point, within the first 24 hours of the online reservation system being launched, over $100,000 in transactions were handled for the campground. Major recreation initiatives included the renovation of Chandler Park, a focus on Alfred Park, asset management planning, the design of the Power Canal, the George Kemp Marina Finger Pier Project, Island Trail Committee partnerships, and a revamped picnic table and bench initiative. We are proud of the generous community support and engagement received for the pursuit of these initiatives. This engagement was also on display during the Malcolm Park Field of Dreams kickball extravaganza. A masterfully executed crowdfunding effort by the Malcolm Park Pride Committee raised over $110,000 and involved over 1,600 donors, setting the foundation for future improvements at the fields. And a robust presence from the Public Works Department in supporting user groups led to a variety of tangible transformations at Malcolm Park. Local beautification, as noted, was pursued more boldly in 2018. Achievements included the installation of a garden at Chandler Park, revamping the garden at Sherman Park, revamping downtown pocket parks, boosting the garden at Project Playground, City Hall grounds improvements, and continuing the Garden of the Year program, as well as a citywide cleanup program. We appreciate the efforts of our volunteers, as well as the expertise of Tracy Menard, as parks and a beautified community cultivate a sense of place necessary for attracting and retaining talent and incentivizing economic development. Efforts to foster growth advanced in 2018 through the expansion of the Foreign Trade Zone, the assignment of Smart Zone administration duties to the Economic Development Corporation, the receipt of the first certified industrial park designation in the Upper Peninsula, the continuation of the concierge program, and the support of new businesses arriving at the Smart Zone. Sanderson Field, which is vital to development efforts and generates a return of $45 in local economic output for every $1 invested from the general fund, advanced in 2018 through improved drainage, a renovated lobby, and stewardship of facility assets. The city and EDC also respectfully remember two pilots who passed away at Sanderson Field in 2018 from an incident in the spring. Our heartfelt condolences remain with affected individuals and families. Downtown economic development, as discussed tonight, also advanced through the opening and relocation of 10 businesses, the provision of design rendering services for 2 businesses, supporting over 30 events, the renovation of the Huntington Bank Pocket Park, and incredible volunteerism and Main Street engagement. The continuation of the Michigan Main Street program has been central to these efforts, and the committees of the program have supported a wide variety of activities, including business recruitment, vacant property marketing, and sponsorship programs. Ongoing support has also been provided for the pending CDBG rental rehabilitation project on West Portage Avenue discussed tonight, representing nearly $700,000 in grant and private property owner investment, as well as support for the pending CDBG facade improvement program involving 3 downtown properties. In total, 88 building permits were issued in 2018 for over $3.5 million in property improvements. The city continued to steward its foundation in order to support economic development, placemaking, and establishing a framework to ensure development reflects the standards of quality for which we endeavor, as well as through the adoption of a master plan, development of a form-based code, and researching policy options to improve housing quality throughout the community. Throughout 2018, major advancements were achieved in the stewardship of the city's infrastructure. From the $20.7 million federal build grant to a nearly $5 million pending grant for downtown access and placemaking improvements to over $200,000 procured in support of roads leading into a future revitalized Alfred Park and Sea-Free area, the city worked to procure grant funding totaling almost $26 million, including the largest grant received in the history of the city. This translates to nearly $1,900 in grant funding obtained in 2018 for every city resident. Improvement projects during 2018 included the I-75 Business Spur reconstruction project, non-motorized improvements to the West 4th Avenue corridor, the completion of the SAW grant, and the design of major future projects including West 8th Avenue. The patience of the community, as always, is appreciated during construction projects. At the same time, the city continued rendering high-quality core services. While the projects and initiatives highlighted in this presentation represent some of the most visible endeavors of the city and its partners, there are thousands of work tasks the city team completes each year in the service of the community. Among these multiple tasks, notable achievements include the implementation of the Water Asset Management Plan, increased spray patching and crack sealing, an increase in the miles of winter-maintained sidewalk by over 30%, an improved municipal fleet, and the procurement of over $80,000 in USDA grant funding for the purchase of a new ambulance and the launch of a 24-hour compost site at the Public Works Department. In order to ensure transparency as services are delivered and to expand access to public information, the city launched a new agenda management platform providing an enhanced level of access to information and authorized the replacement of the audiovisual equipment in the commission chambers, which will lead to the live streaming of meetings. In addition, the city conducted 2 elections during the 2018 calendar year. The November election experienced a considerable turnout at roughly 54%. In terms of legislative advocacy, the city effectively represented the interests of the community at large. The city contributed its voice to advocate for additional transportation funding and funding for the Soo Locks. The city also strongly advocated for improvements to how the state of Michigan funds its fire protection grant program and was pleased when the state took action to fully fund this program for the first time ever in 2018. The projected revenue increase from a fully funded fire protection grant program equates to a roughly 35% increase to the traditional statutory revenue sharing funding received by the city. Successes were also experienced by local units throughout the state when legislation threatening local control and short-term rentals and legislation threatening local services through the tax exemption of utility distribution equipment stalled in the legislature. The city appreciates its relationships with state and federal officials and the support of these officials that proved to be of paramount importance in the procurement of the $20.7 million build grant and the $1 million special legislative grant from the state of Michigan for the reconstruction of the Carbide Dock and East Easterday Avenue, as well as the support of the city on a regular basis. In 2019, we look forward to engaging a new host of legislators on legislation that will prevent the use of the dark store theory of property valuation for big box stores. The city was also pleased to welcome 11 new team members during 2018 and settle 4 collective bargaining agreements with the firefighters, fire captains, police patrol, and police records bargaining units. Our employees are a tremendous asset, and their contributions, both seen and unseen, celebrated or silent, are valued on a daily basis. The city has been fortunate in its efforts to attract talent and is working to build up the next generation of municipal leadership that will serve as stewards of the public trust. In 2018, the city also recognized 11 employees who retired or transitioned out of city employment. Their contributions over their time with the city are valued. The city also respectfully remembers Public Works employee Jerry Van Leuven, who passed away in 2018. While we recognize employees and appreciate their decision to make employment with the city a part of their careers, we also celebrate their commitment to community engagement and volunteerism. The employees of the city took part in a number of fundraising efforts, raising thousands of dollars while connecting with citizens. The innovative Community Service Day program, with the clerical bargaining unit providing for 14 hours of community service annually, has also proven to be successful. In terms of finances, the hard work of the Police and Fire Pension Board resulted in the selection of a new pension fund advisor in order to achieve stronger returns. The landscape of municipal pension reporting changed dramatically in 2018, and the city has worked diligently to maintain compliance with evolving state requirements, while continuing to advocate for tools from the state needed to further reduce pension obligations. Concurrently, the city has worked hard to maintain its A+ bond rating with the stable outlook assignment, maintain a long-term projected general fund ratio of at least 22 to 24%, achieve the highest opinion level possible on its recent audit, increase its net position from $71.1 million to $72.3 million, and contain healthcare expenditures. And just a graph with the 5-year trend in general fund balance revenue. With the increase in 2018, we do anticipate in 2019 that coming back down to the average of 2016 levels, but remaining consistent and stable. Finally, in terms of boards and committees, the city would like to express its appreciation for the 15 volunteers who joined the Community Services Board, the Board of Review, Fire Code Board of Appeals, Zoning Board of Appeals, the EDC, and Ethics and Conduct Board. And would also like to thank the 8 volunteers who joined the Tree Commission, District Library, Existing Structures Board, the DDA, and Seal Estate. And respectfully recognizes the service of the 10 volunteers who stepped off a board or committee during 2018. It's important to note that public engagement through a board or committee can offer an opportunity to significantly shape the direction of the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Members of boards and committees can become involved in very significant projects as evidenced by the DDA's Main Street and community building initiatives, the work of the LDFA to assign a new Smart Zone administrator, the work of the Community Services Board to review the Youth Recreation Funding Program, the work of the Planning Commission to implement citizen-friendly processes, the work of the Airport Advisory Board to transition fixed-base operator services, and the work of the Police and Fire Pension Board to select a new fund administrator. If you have an interest in becoming engaged, a board or committee may be a good fit for your interests. In closing, I would like to express my appreciation to Deputy Clerk Jen Nelson for her assistance in helping to prepare this presentation. Always a fun project to work on, and a reminder that the city maintains a steadfast commitment to transparency and citizen service, with all meetings of the City Commission being open to the public, the website containing the annual budget audit reports and plans and information on finances, and social media being used on an increasing basis to put information out about city functions. As a service organization, we aim for excellence in service and embrace a citizen service philosophy, and always welcome feedback on our services, and anytime information is requested, certainly glad to work to meet those needs. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's about 18-minute report. Very good. With the pictures and stuff, went along very well. You're to be commended. Thank you. It was excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're moving on to item status report, 2019 goal setting and budget schedule. And no question, it's been a very, very busy year, and 2019 looks like it's going to be just as busy. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor,
Great.
for that. So included in the agenda packet is a report from Finance Director and Treasurer Collins outlining the schedule for the preparation of the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st. Several critical dates for the City Commission in the process include Monday, February 11th, which is set up as the annual goal-setting session, and Monday, April 15th, when the annual budget will be submitted to the City Commission by the City Manager, with budget work sessions being scheduled for Tuesday, April 16th, 17th, and 18th. And just to note, these dates are updated from what was included in the agenda earlier, but these are the correct dates, being the submission of the budget on April 15th, and then the work sessions occurring on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of April. The special meeting to reconcile the budget has also been scheduled for Monday, April 22nd, and a report on the budget and setting of the necessary public hearings will occur on Monday, May 6th, with the date of May 20th being established for the approval of the budget. Just to note that this will be the 4th year in which City Administration prepares a 2-year budget for consideration. The period of time to be covered by the budget will extend through June 30, 2021. As Commissioners are aware, the first year of the 2-year budget receives formal approval through the process, and the second year is approved on a conceptual basis. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the schedule? Okay, excellent, thank you. Matters presented by the public. Is there anyone in the audience like to make comment at this time? Yes, Chief. Chief Scott Labonte, the Fire Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission.
Evening.
As some of you know, and if you've heard my rant already about this, I apologize. But just so you know, the police and fire departments got together, and we've decided to hold a few functions for our government employees who are affected by the shutdown. The first event, or how you want to put it, program, I guess, which started last Thursday, is a food drive. Which we've already started accepting donations. We've filled up 5 tables from the puller already, from food, diapers, cat and dog food, and obviously human food too, but all sorts of really great things. We're going to continue accepting donations all the way up and through the 25th. Actually picked up a corporate sponsor this morning, being Precision Edge, who asked if we can take more food, and obviously that's not a problem. So they're working very closely with us to collect more foodstuffs for everybody that we can. Our hope is to distribute all this food on Saturday, which brings me to our second event, which would be a pancake breakfast that we're putting on at the Elks Club this Saturday, the 26th, from 9 a.m. to noon. The pancake breakfast will be free to all government employees, irregardless if they're affected by the shutdown or not. If they bring their ID, they and their family will get in for free and be able to eat for free. There's a small charge for the general public to come in and eat, just to cover our expenses and whatnot. That's $5 for adults, $3 for children 12 and under. We do have some different types of pancakes available for those of those people who are allergic to gluten and whatnot. We'll have substitutions for that as well. So we're really hoping to do the best that we can for our brothers and sisters who are affected by the shutdown, and I think it'll be a really good time.
Sure, and in talking with the city manager, there's an awful lot of activities out there for the furloughed employees.
There are.
And trying to coordinate all those different activities, not coordinate, but at least get the word out where they're at and who's doing what, so that people will be aware of them that are furloughed. And as the city manager, if he would maybe take the lead on being sort of a clearinghouse. And city manager, what do you think?
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's a great idea. And at least for organizations or businesses or entities that are offering some type of support for furloughed federal employees, if they would reach out to the city manager's office, our office will work to put together a comprehensive list of information, as comprehensive as it can be, so that anybody approaching the city will be able to obtain that information. We'd be very pleased to.
It'll be on our
put
website,
that
I would
together.
think.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. And
Thank you.
it's going to be a busy Saturday. And the food's still coming, or all the different things are still coming in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still accepting donations. If anybody has a donation, they can bring it to the fire station at 123 Ridge Street at any point in time. The building is locked up 24 hours a day, so they'll have to ring
Okay,
the bell
ring
at the
bell.
front door, but somebody will be right there to help them out.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Matters presented by the City Commission. Just have a three things that we wanted to mention. First of all, the KDR Challenge activity, the 4th annual Sioux Eagles versus the Coast Guard. Put Your Phone on Ice is Saturday, January 26th at 7 p.m. At the Puller. The KDR Challenge, Sioux Eagles and the Coast Guard are very excited about this game. It has been decided that the proceeds for this game will go to the Coast Guard Chief Petty Officers Association, which will distribute the donations to help with the Coast Guard families in the city. Again, it's Saturday, January 26th at 7 p.m., so let's try and fill the seats for the Coast Guard. Thank you. Otherwise, just some information. Of course, again, the I-500, a week from Saturday. Race week starts Monday, but annually the Bud Clark Day is Tuesday, the start of time trials, and race starts at 10 a.m. in the morning, and a lot of activities going to there. Also, I thought just mention the Hobie Baker candidates. We have 2 Lake Superior State University hockey players. Hobie Baker Award is given to the top National Collegiate Athletic Association men's hockey player. And so far, Lake Superior has had 6 finalists in their history, being a Division I hockey program. But this year, Diego Cuglietta and Anthony Nellis, 2 seniors, are candidates, at least for the Hobie Baker. They're not finalists yet, and they're working down the finalists, but if you go to the Hobie Baker Award, you can vote as a fan forum type of thing. You can vote for either one of them or both, but you can only vote for one a day. Just to give that plug to the 2 boys working very hard. Lake Superior is doing very well in the hockey arena at this point, ranked, I think the last time I looked, I think they were ranked 20th in the nation, and very competitive, and it's great hockey. So a lot of hockey going on in the community, certainly Eagles and Sioux Area High School also. I think that takes care of it for me. Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. This weekend you got the Ice Festival all weekend downtown.
Exactly.
And the Youth Advisory Council kids, they'll be doing their Winter Olympics with some volleyball and cornhole and some other games going on by Birdseye, as well as Sioux Events has got some fun stuff for the little kids with penguins to do downtown with the Ice Festival. So great time downtown. There's also the dog sled race out in Kinross this weekend. Just kind of want to comment on tonight. A lot of volunteerism was talked about tonight, and I love the city manager's report, and today's Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
That's right.
And one of my favorite quotes from him is that everybody can be great because anyone can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. And in our community, we have all that. So thank you to all the volunteers that make everything happen and come out and support all these awesome events. I-500, as the mayor said, starts on Monday. There's the kid race, and then there's also the night skate that night on the track on Monday night. Time trials, then pub crawl, and then Friday night, the night before the race, Lake State has the whiteout against domestic violence up at Lake State.
Right.
So that's the first time that I believe they've had a hockey game over I-500 weekend. So make sure you go out and support them.
Yeah, well, I think it's this weekend. So that 500, isn't it? Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's next weekend. Okay, very good. Anyone else? Commissioner Gary.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Support?
Been moved, supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.